Alright, so we just watched the finale of season 1 of the Creature Commandos, and overall, I will say about this show, I enjoyed it. I appreciate it. I think as a season of television, it works. It tells a story. We got introduced to these characters. I like the structure. I got one episode at a time. We got introduced to a different member of the Creature Commandos. I think it had a lot of heart. I think these characters were interesting, which is something that I always think is true of James Gunn characters. And I think these are the kind of characters that he works very well with. These very flawed, unconventional heroes or even villains who are forced to take up these heroic causes. I thought the animation was incredibly well done. A lot of the way they use the superpowers are very creative. The models are very expressive, very cool looking. I liked how expansive this show was. I liked how many characters were introduced, but also I liked the little peeks we got at James Gunn's new DCU. Like, it felt like a universe that was lived in, and I'm excited for more of that in Superman. Also, this is another one of those videos where Mortimer is on my lap. He's the weasel of this podcast where he just does nothing but bite. I was happy that we finally got an episode for Nina. I was excited for Nina. I enjoyed this character in the series. I liked how she played off of the Bride. I liked everything that this character was doing. I do think just this one episode, episode 7, felt a little weird, only because of how it had to close up this story and what the revelation of what was actually going on meant for the overall story and like the episodes. Like, for instance, it's weird to me, and this isn't like super weird because this is how the Suicide Squad goes. It's weird that Rick Flag Sr. was pretty much absent for 2 episodes. And he wasn't dead, he was just in the hospital, not really doing anything. But considering he was so important in the beginning of the series, it felt strange that he was not killed, but he was not available to be part of this team. And I don't think that bothers me because I like that in the Suicide Squad. I think the Suicide Squad handles Rick Flag Jr. dying and then the effect that has on the team. That makes a lot of sense, and I think dramatically cool. I think why it felt strange in this series is because of what was actually happening, the revelation, what was actually going on behind the scenes, and also what that meant for everything we had already seen felt weird. And first of all, this is one of those series where you look back and you go, oh, if the good guys had done nothing, everything would have gone, it seems like, according to plan. The Polkolistans did not seem to have a plan for Cersei. They called Amanda Waller and said, help protect us from Cersei. But if Cersei had just been able to walk up to that castle and use magic to incinerate the princess, it doesn't seem like there was a plan B. I don't want to put all the blame on one character, but like, Cersei, come on. This seems like a character who's not that stupid. Like, she's got to be, because she's one of those mastermind characters who sets up all these really complicated plans. At least she usually is. And I think that's what I enjoy about her. Sometimes she's petty, and she'll, do a big stupid plan just to get a little bit of revenge that, any other supervillain would just let go. But like, Cersei's been around for so long, she's just been waiting for the perfect moment to ruin Wonder Woman's life, so here she goes. Like, I think that is cool. But I think overall, this is a character who is somewhat wise. She's a trickster, right? Even just if you take the mythology. So we're not even looking at DC, but just the character she exists in, like, the Odyssey. She tricks people into doing what she wants. It doesn't seem like that character would recruit an army of weirdos for this purpose, considering you don't need them. Like, it seems like if she was really trying, the Cersei plan would be just, become invisible and sneak into Polkolistan, because it's a pretty technologically advanced society, but they just have a lot of big guards in mech suits with laser beams and stuff. I feel like she could just sneak in and kill the princess and then be good. I don't know why she had this gigantic army of incels, and then that obviously attracted the attention of the Creature Commandos and Amanda Waller, but whatever. So Cersei, bad plan, sure. Take this as a new character who makes bad decisions, that's fine. I think the fact that what we learned is, speaking of characters would have been able to do nothing, if Rick Flag had not investigated Clayface, which isn't even to say, like, Rick Flag was suspicious of the professor, but not because she was acting out of character. He was just suspicious of her because he didn't believe Cersei's vision, and he was trying to come up with a way that wasn't true. All right, so let's just take this back. Episode 1, we gotta stop Cersei, save the princess. Episode 2 and 3, same. But then episode 4, we get the big premonition, and then we have to kill the princess because Cersei is actually a good guy. And that's where our heroes split. So the Creature Commandos are like, okay, well, I guess we're going to do that. And they try to do that, and they almost do it. But for a somewhat random series of events, right? Like, Weasel does not protect the princess if the princess does not look like Weasel's young friend from his tragic past. So outside of that, if that hadn't happened, Nina Mazursky would have killed her, and then they would have been like, no, don't kill her. And then the Bride would have been like, no, you should kill her. If the Creature Commandos had done nothing, And from the beginning, everything would have been fine. If Rick Flag Sr. had listened to Amanda Waller at the fork point in episode 4 and not done anything and just led the Creature Commandos, everything would have been fine. But also, all the Rick Flag Sr. stuff didn't really matter because he wasn't able to tell anybody what he found out. It was really just a big misdirect for us. Like, you figure if you're the princess now and you're trying to send Clayface in to create more suspicion, you have Clayface do the Clayface thing, and then you leave Rick Flag not dead. Like, you don't kill him the amount that you did. And maybe Clayface is just a loose cannon, you know, he's an operator who it will just beat up guys. But it seems like if Clayface had succeeded in killing Rick Flag in Frankenstein, like he seemed to want to in that moment, he would have also lost. Like, his whole plan would have been pointless because they went on their own, because they weren't listening to Waller. So, I don't know. I'm sure people in the comments are going to be saying, no, it all makes sense. Like, and it makes sense. Technically, it all checks out. And I like the bride had a pretty succinct explanation of what was going on. It just, over the course of the first couple episodes, it felt very straightforward, which I enjoyed. Not that I think it can't be complicated, but then it got so twisty, and it was twist, but that twist is actually a lie. But that lie is actually a lie, but that twist is actually true because that lie was a lie, and it just never ends, and then it just does end. It ends with them being told not to kill her, and then they're like, wait a second, no, that was a lie, we'll kill her. Like, I don't know, I like that the course of the show, it wasn't about Rick Flag Sr., right? It was about the bride taking this role that she didn't want before, and then Nina died, and then she decided that is something she wanted to do, kind of in Nina's memory, but also just because, like, that is her place, that is her family. That's all fine and interesting. I guess just for me, if we didn't see any of the Rick Flag stuff and any of the Clayface stuff, I wouldn't really care. It just kind of goes nowhere. Like, it goes somewhere. I don't know. These are just my thoughts, having watched the episode. This is not an essay why the Creature Commandos finale is secretly bad or secretly genius or whatever. I'm just trying to process all of it. I think emotionally, I enjoyed what we did with Nina in this episode. Like, she finally found where she belonged, and her and the bride, like the push and pull of those two characters was the important relationship of the series. I'm very bummed that she's dead. I do think it's funny that with the bride and Nina and Phosphorus doesn't count for this, but definitely, hypothetically, G.I. Robot and the bride probably, and Weasel probably not also because he's just kind of a mess, could have done this, right? When they get to the place and it's like, we have to stab her, that's the only way we can kill her. If they had a gun, they could shoot her. They can see her, they know she's there. It would be hard to get away, but it could totally be done. And like, honestly, if they had stabbed her, if Nina had stabbed her and then, you know, her dead body just floats up, they would have had a lot of trouble getting out of there, especially Nina. But I like that in the beginning of the season, you got this like question of like, why is Nina even here? She can't breathe outside of her suit. So if she's in the middle of a big gunfight and she gets shot, she's in a lot of trouble. She doesn't really want to do any of this. She seems like she's, you know, smart and she's a good influence on them. But it seems like she's a liability to bring on this. And Amanda Waller says, well, wait till you see her in the water. And in the water, it's just like, she can swim. It's not like Aquaman. She can't swim really fast or, you know, control the water. It's just like she can hold her breath really, really long. It's not that big of a pool. I think the bride could have made that swim. So yeah, I don't know. It just felt like, what was Nina actually good at? Like, one thing I think is really cool in the Frankenstein and the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. comic that this is loosely based on. That's where Nina Mazursky comes from. A lot of these other characters are from other stuff and were brought to this team because they fit an archetype that makes sense. Whereas Nina Mazursky was created for that book. And she was a scientist, first and foremost, who invented monsters. And at a certain point was like, I am making all these monsters, so I have to turn myself into a monster. And she experimented on herself, turned herself into a fish person. So when she leads this team, or when she's part of the team, because the team is led by Frankenstein, because in that book, he's more of like he's Hellboy, basically. But like the idea of, there was no Frankenstein in the bride, like he's not stalking her. It feels more like exes that have to work together and don't like each other. But like Nina Mazursky in the field is the field tech. Like she's the one who's doing readings and taking samples of stuff and saying, oh, well, the biology here and the gravity, and that means this, this, and this. And also, she's really into the monsters thing. She's the version of this character who comes out of this finale alive and is like, I like being a monster. Being a monster is cool. So it's a bummer that we didn't get there with the character. But yeah, just because, like, it seems like Amanda Waller is just justifying, like, we got all these Creature Commando guys. Why don't you put this one in there? Well, because she was a Creature Commando and the shark, I guess, was busy. Because obviously otherwise he would have been there. But she's around, so just hope there's a water thing. That being said, I thought her backstory was interesting. This was, by the way, Greg Henry voiced her father, Dr. Mazursky. People that know him will probably recognize him mostly as Star-Lord's grandfather, who we see at the end of Guardians 3. But the real ones know him as Mitchum Huntsberger, the bad dad from Lake Gilmore Girls, which is where I will always know that character from. Yeah, that character's interesting. Tragic backstory. Would have been tragic enough if they just took her away. They had to shoot him in that moment because that is the most dramatic thing to do. But it was just funny. I don't know. Yeah, I guess it played the way that all these guys' backstories play, where it's like, I had a loved one once and then they got shot. Or I had a loved one once and then there was a fire and they shot at me. Or I had a loved one once and then the mob shot everybody and then put me in a big atom accelerator thingy. But I would have been fine with this one being like, I had a loved one and they took me away from him and he doesn't know where I am. That would have been fine too. Other stuff this episode, like phosphorus. Again, the phosphorus action is so cool. They really thought through what fire would do in certain situations. Like I liked him just burning through the wall, took a while. But I also like the time when he just grabbed that guy's jaw and just pushed through it. And there was nothing left, like a lightsaber had gone through it. Love that. I think Weasel was good in this episode. I appreciated that finale for him. It felt a little bit annoying because it was a misunderstanding, right? It wasn't two philosophies coming against each other. It was this kid happens to look like, and she was the same way the princess was nice to Weasel. They do say that, but realistically it's that Weasel had this friendship with this little girl, looks a lot like the princess, and that is why. But like if that girl didn't look like that, princess dead. Weasel is not intervening, it doesn't seem like. Frankenstein, I really did like him. I like David Harbour in this. Felt like the show had something to do with him. I liked his plot line, but he also felt kind of underserved by the finale. And I don't think this needs to be a story about him, but I wanted something more interesting to happen with this plotline because so much of it didn't really matter. Like again, he just kind of got them in trouble, but I liked him. I like Frankenstein a lot. David Harbour did a really good job. Happy to see that character survived. Happy to see he got a post-credit scene. Let's talk about the finale and all that. First of all, Economos in that moment when he was running and he was like, oh, I'm out of shape. You're out of shape. You also have a broken leg. So like I would say that's most of why you're not running super well right now, John. So don't, beat yourself up over every little thing. Some more little things before you get to the end. The one bit where everybody puts their shoulder on Nina, and I liked it because I did like the bride doing it. And then I like the Phosphorus did it because he was just like kind of a dad, and we didn't know that about him until last episode. So having his interaction with the child last episode maybe brought that to the surface with this character, reminded him of his own humanity, and then he was able to use that. Like, that's a good arc for him. I do think it was missing a beat where Weasel put his hand on her shoulder and then just made his weird face and said, "Gah," or whatever, like instead of just something profound. But, I don't know. It's fine. Amanda Waller kicking down that door was cool. Very cool. It's weird that Clayface has teeth. Like, if you kill Clayface and he explodes, the teeth get left over. Also, it's weird that the CCTV camera captured Clayface, but we never saw Grodd. Outside of the vision, you'd never expect Grodd is involved, but there wasn't like there was a meeting between Grodd, Clayface, and the princess. I kind of would have hoped, and this maybe could have been what happened in some other version of this story, and like maybe this is what you could expand upon. Grodd and Clayface working together, some sort of, Injustice Society, Legion of Doom, whatever you want to call it, because those are villains that work well together. Clayface is very much a jobber, like he will take up this very specific task of like impersonating someone, and then Grodd is one of the masterminds. So I don't know, we could do that in the future. I like Maria Bakalova in this. I think she was very authentically, she's Bulgarian. I think she fit really well into this role, and I liked how this character was sometimes trying to keep up the appearance of being a good guy and like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to kill your friend, but I just did what I had to do. I enjoyed that. I do think it's weird that she went swimming. It's not that weird, but I guess it's like, that's the kind of thing that if that character was Clayface, that's what I would expect from Clayface. Is like something that is out of character, but out of character in the like, well, this is, I guess, something this person would do, but like, doesn't really make a whole lot of sense unless they're trying to get stabbed or something like that. Especially because like, oh, the Creature Commandos are here, they're coming to get you. Well, I don't know, I'll just go into the pool. None of them can go in pools, right? They're all water soluble Creature Commandos, so we're gonna be okay. Even if Phosphorus just want to kill me. I'm pretty sure he could superheat the pool pretty quickly before he could get out of it. Like everybody in this show, you have to kind of go, maybe they're just kind of dumb. And, that works for a lot of shows. Okay, so the finale. So we get more Creature Commandos in the future. This is something that is going to continue. GI Robot is back with a big giant body. Love it. Weasel is still around. Great. Phosphorus is still around. Great. Nosferatu, somewhat classic. I mean, it's classic and old, but not like an incredibly consequential villain of Superboys, who is a bat person or Dracula something or other. She is not in the usual Creature Commandos. In the like Frankenstein Agents of Shade, there is a character who is like the vampire bat guy, but he's not this guy. We also did get the Mummy, though. He is in Agents of Shade, and he's cool. Like, he's just a mummy who does magic, and everybody's like, I don't know what that guy's deal is, but he's pretty, there's a lot going on with him. Like, you're like, hey, this guy's probably a mummy. He could just be magic. Yeah, I like that. And then you got King Shark. We saw King Shark again, apparently played by Diedrich Bader this time instead of Sylvester Stallone. Makes sense. This team needs a water guy, so I like that. I do want more of this, and I want them to follow up on Grodd. So I do think they'll have to sit down and go, okay, so based on what we saw and what I saw in the vision and what apparently was true before you killed the princess, which great job, the bride, I'm pretty sure Gorilla Grodd is out there. I don't know if we know who that is, but let's say there's a gorilla, so we could probably just check, like the jungle and see if we can find him there. See if the princess had any contacts with the jungle, because it seems interesting. I do think, and I've seen people make this point on some Discord servers I'm on, like there is the like step that I don't think this show really made when the vision came up and when Rick Flag was like, she's not, the princess isn't the bad guy, Cersei's the bad guy, it was all a trick. You kind of like, yeah, you know what, that makes sense, because the vision was the princess, a gorilla, who maybe they knew who he was, maybe they didn't, and their robot armor guys were able to kill all of the superheroes, including Superman, which doesn't seem impossible, but seems a little hard to believe, considering, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, who doesn't seem like this is a character people know. Otherwise, you figure everybody talked about Themyscira would probably mention Wonder Woman at some point. So I don't know, it's just a little strange. But I would like Amanda Waller to sit down with team and go, all right, we probably got to figure out who this gorilla guy is, because he's our big bad. And, apparently we're not going to do a Flash movie anytime soon. So might as well, he's the villain Creature Commandos have to face. I'm surprised there was no point in this season. There were a lot of characters that were being tricked into doing the wrong thing or misled. There's no point when a character, and you don't have to do this. The Suicide Squad didn't do this either, to be fair. Suicide Squad did a little bit near the end, especially because Clayface is on the bad guy team and potentially a talking, or at least telepathic gorilla, and a bunch of guys in robot armor and stuff. You figure there'd be one moment where the princess is like, guys, they don't like you, like they don't appreciate you. Come to my team. We'll protect you. We'll take over the world. It'll be great. But I don't know. It didn't need that. I was just kind of expecting that beat. And maybe once we get Grodd instead of the princess, it would make more sense. And it's also weird that on IMDb, the guards are listed as Amethyst guards. I know Amethyst is a character in DC. I don't think that's what the princess is supposed to be. Or this is any, I don't know. I don't know if this is related to that. And I don't want to draw too many, conclusions and too many, this guy's secretly, this guy's a grandfather. Because there's certain things I'm sure that are explicit, like the Batman being in there, that's Batman. But I don't think anything else really matters, because this was definitely conceived as its own thing. And then, after the fact, they were like, this is the start of the new DCU. Anyway, I like that James Gunn is good at this. This is not my favorite of his things. I think, it's still Guardians movies and then the Suicide Squad, but this is solid. This is good enough. I'm excited for another season. Excited to see more of these guys. I think it can be fun. And yeah, so I don't know. I don't do number ratings, but sometimes I do. 7 out of 10. Good show. Fun. But you know what else is fun? This video's sponsor, Nebula. You know Nebula. It is a subscription streaming service that I and a bunch of YouTubers helped to create. It focuses on giving the creators more power to make the cool stuff that you guys already like and giving you guys a better experience for watching it. That means all my videos go up ad-free. Some of them are early. The Nando V Movies videos are early. The Nando Cut videos are a little early, but they're not as early because they're a thing that happened yesterday usually. We curate different video lists based on what people are talking about. So if you're watching that new Dune show, for example, and you want to watch some videos about Dune, we've got a bunch of those. We make that really easy to find. You can just watch that. We also have Nebula Originals. So these are all kinds of things. We've got a pro shoot of a play by Abigail Thorne. Patrick Willems has made a Christmas special. His full-length feature film about an evil coconut. He's got a new short film coming out with a cast full of actors like Zach Cherry, who fans of this channel, I mean, you know him from so many things. Perhaps he has been in Severance, you love Severance, Fallout, but I mean, realistically, a good portion of you know him as the guy who tells Spider-Man to do a flip, or the guy who is taping the Shang-Chi fight. But either way, he is in this, and that is something you can only watch on Nebula. Tom Nichols just made a documentary about gerontocracy, about how boomers have changed the world and government, and is it good, or is it even really a thing? A subject that has only gotten more relevant since this documentary came out. We have so many other cool things I think you guys are going to love. You'll find out about them soon. And I always say, a year of Nebula is a steal at $5 a month or $60 a year. But if you use the code TheNandoCut at checkout, you can get a year of Nebula for $36. It's a great deal. Check it out. Go to go.nebula.tv/TheNandoCut. Use the code TheNandoCut at checkout. I guarantee you'll find something cool you're going to like. So that's all I got. Stay safe. I'll see you next time.